Welcome back. You are inside the Culture Divide Experiment. My name is Barry J, and we are here at the Hotel RL in downtown Inner Harbor, Baltimore. I have to make sure I say that right because that is a tongue twister there. We are talking tonight about Black love, lust, and relationships. It's about to get real. And I have to get used to actually holding the mic. I'm so used to just being able to have both my hands together and talk with my hands. So please, everyone, bear with me. Please let me also introduce you to the squad this evening, the team. To my left, your right.
We're going through that again.
And we're going through that again. This is SJ, my rock, my partner, my business partner, my wife, the mother of my children, the lady who keeps me in check.
All right, now.
Check 'em, girl.
Hello. It's always great to be back.
Hey, and please wish her a happy belated birthday. It was on February 7th. We were celebrating over the weekend and
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And all the way down to the end, Miss Lauren B. She is the original connector of DC.
Dot connector.
Dot connector. We're going to hashtag that. Also, she is a socialite in DC at all the functions, all the parties. I show up and she's there before me. I'm like,
hanging out.
Hanging out, making things happen. And our special guest this evening, Dr. Roz. And I got to give you a little bit of an introduction here. Okay, I realize I'm
Got
getting
some
a little
feedback.
excited over here. So she's a featured psychologist on TV One's Crimes of Passion. She specializes in love, marriage, and trauma after abuse. Everyone, please welcome Dr. Roz.
Hi, thanks guys for having me.
Happy
to be here
It's a
tonight.
pleasure
Thank
to
you.
have you here.
So, okay, my first question, I think I lost my mic, but I'm still going to talk. My first question, crimes of passion. So, is it the man or woman that drives someone crazy, or are the triggers already there?
That's a great question. And when I was doing the show, For My Woman, on TV One, so if you're not familiar with the show, they have For My Woman, which I was a series psychologist on that, and then they have For My Man, which is the show about women who commit crime of passion for the men in their life. But really what it boils down to, because people are like, how do people get caught up in these situations because they seem so extreme? But it really is about the foundation of what you believe relationships are. And so if whatever you've seen, and I tell people this all the time, our parents are our first teachers. So however your parents interact, that's the idea and concept that you have about relationships. And so if you see parents arguing, I like to think of, what is it, Baby Boy?
Oh, yeah.
Jody and Taraji, when they would go argue like crazy,
Right.
but they had this intense passion and love for each other. If you saw that growing up, then you thought that was the reality of what relationships look like. As unhealthy as that may be, because no one should be in an emotionally abusive space.
Right.
But if that's what you saw, that's what you think relationships are. So what we see, what we observe, even as young as 1, 2, 3, that's how we determine what our relationship base is going to be, unless there's some intervention. And when I say intervention, therapeutic intervention. If something happens where, a therapist like myself, a psychologist like myself has to come into play. But outside of that, people really develop their relationship skills based off what they've learned from their parents. And so when people get in these situations of how did they get caught up in this? How did they get into this crazy crime of passion? There are triggers.
There are triggers.
And so I say this all the time. We all function from our default behaviors, right? You probably still, like my father taught me how to drive. I still check the mirror, look back, put my seatbelt on, adjust my seat the way he taught me. I won't tell my age. So many years ago. I still tie my shoes the way my mother taught me.
Right.
So these are like the default behaviors, social skills that we just rely on, as we matriculate through life, basically. And so if there's never any intervention to say, hey, that's not appropriate, then you continue to do it. And if it's in your family, because, if you go to any family reunion, you can see the familial behaviors.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all acceptable. You don't see anything wrong with it. And so you start functioning from that default behavior.
That actually kind of bridges to a question that I had for you. When you talk about what it is that you're seeing growing up, the experiences that you have, and how that matriculates into adulthood, what do you think are, if you can give me like your top 2 or 3 obstacles or issues facing kind of the sustainability or the success of what it means to have Black love? Like, what do you think are the things that play the major role in the breakdown of that family, of that love?
So that's a great question, because most people think that infidelity is the one thing that will break down a family. It's not.
No.
People have been dealing with, and not that I am a proponent of this,
Right.
but you can move through those things. But not knowing how to communicate your needs. So if, say, well, I'll give an example of me and my husband. I share a lot, so, because I can only speak from my experience.
Right.
My parents were married for 47 years before my father passed.
Wow.
My husband's parents divorced when he was 2. So the way that we looked at relationships were completely different. In his, like, I'm the girl who's like, no, divorce is not an option. Like I don't know what that means.
We're gonna work through this.
Getting divorced. What are we
Like,
talking about right now?
Like I don't understand this idea of divorce. But for him, he's like, no, if it doesn't work out, then you have this opportunity to find something that may work out for you. No, brother, no. No.
Like you signed a contract. You didn't know?
You said I do.
You have the opportunity to get yourself together, right? For this relationship. So just being very different in your thoughts about what a relationship looks like can be, a hindrance to your relationship. So that's the first thing, because I don't think people. So here's the truth: you see somebody, when you guys met, you was like, "Ooh, she fine. I gotta have her," right?
No, that wasn't.
I was going to say our story is actually
Y'all
very
story's different.
It's very different.
Oh well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
That definitely wasn't it.
Because most people are like, "Oh, he looks good. She looks good. I want to get with this person."
Yeah, she thought I was an a-hole, actually.
Yeah, he got on my nerves. I couldn't.
I
He
can-
still does. But I love him.
But it was destiny. It was destiny.
Yeah.
We kept seeing each other throughout
Yeah.
the time. So
Love it.
Our paths crossed like many, many different times, many different places. And really, the first outreach was I wanted a drink hookup when I went to the club. So I was like, oh, I know him. I done seen him like 3 or 4 different places. I give him my number, so when I come to the club, I get free drinks.
yeah, she thought it was gonna be free.
I
But-
see how you were working
but-
it. I see.
And personally, I remember saying, "Oh, she's all grown up now," because before she wasn't even on my radar because there's a little 5-year age difference, and when we were younger, it was just like, "Oh, she's a little youngin'. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay, all right, I see you." Nice,
And I
that's
just thought
cute.
he always had something to say. Like, I was like, I'm not even, like, talking to you right now. But yet, here you are, just...
That hasn't
Your mouth.
changed. That hasn't
But
changed.
typically,
They're like, you
people
guys
see
are
each
rare.
other and they're like,
Yeah, it's that instant, that physical attraction.
Now, I saw
And
that
then-
final time when she was looking
Yeah.
for the drink hooker. I was like, oh,
Oh,
I see you.
baby girl ain't baby girl no more.
Exactly.
people aren't typically thinking about, when you see somebody, like, what does
Yeah.
this mean?
Like,
Like,
you're not
Yeah.
thinking
you know what
about
I mean?
Yeah.
how are we going to navigate the hardships.
Right.
So I think we all get into this this idea of, hey, let's get together. You look good and everything is going to be great. You look like you love life. And then when you have that first bump in the road, you're like, what is this?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and so not knowing how to navigate. I tell people all the time, you might have a loving relationship. You just don't know how to argue.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you fight unfair, then it feels like this isn't the relationship for you. But if you guys learn how to fight and work out your differences, and look, this takes time. It
Yeah.
takes time. This is not something that can happen pre-dating, because things happen. Marriage is a renegotiation.
Yeah.
You're always renegotiating the terms of what you're doing, because you grow. And if you weren't growing, if you weren't having that opportunity to, you and I were just talking about doing things that fulfill self,
Right.
then it will feel like your relationship is hindering
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you really have to, you really need emotional maturity.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
believe people get stuck not understanding what emotional maturity is. Like, say, for instance, I have to give a lot of credit to my husband because people are like, your husband let you do that?
He let her do everything. Let me tell you.
All right, so give me an example of everything. I'm the guy.
No. Like when I see Frank, I just because this is my soror, if y'all don't know. This like my big sis. She be looking out for me, Ski-wee. No, but when I see Frank and he knows that he's married to, I mean, you're going to be your own self, but just for the purpose of a comparison, he married to Oprah. She's doing her thing.
Right.
And he's like, I'm all right being Stedman. Because at the end of the day, she comes home to me.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's married to me. And I see such a grace and a confidence in your husband when I see him because he lets her, she's a big personality. She talking to this person. She working that corner. She got this event. She's sitting on this board. And he's not intimidated by it.
Right.
But I believe in being submissive to my husband.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So even though I may be, because I'm a social butterfly, always have been. Mm-hmm. And he'll tell you I don't like people. Because it's overwhelming for him because I'm always like, no, this person,
That
Like
sounds a little familiar, actually.
Yeah. he won't go to Walmart with me anymore because it's like, you talk to everybody. And I'm like, I do. But I don't meet a stranger. That's part of just being a Georgia Peach. But, people are like, they're amazed. It's like, your husband allow you to do this, and in my mind I was like, what do you mean allow?
Right.
And so I don't understand
I never
those
did.
questions.
What do you mean allow?
Because when we were dating, like, I still was that girl, like, this is what I do. I'm very active in my sorority. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not going to change. I'm active in the community. That's not going to change. In church, like, these things are staples and values for me. So I think you have to manage a relationship with someone who understands your values and the things that you need. My husband knows, because all of my family is in Georgia. Mm-hmm. So, and his family is here. And so he knows, like, I'm very family oriented. And so I need, like, family time. So he'll, like, gather his family, like, okay, yeah, she needs
that family love.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So it's really knowing who you've married. It's really knowing what they desire and being okay with that. And like you said, like, it's so funny. My husband will say, like, we could be at a party. I could be hosting a party. He's in the corner reading a book. He's like, just let me know when you're ready.
So he's not even out being social butterfly himself?
Or he's either my videographer or my photographer, So he's probably what you guys do for each other. But he'll be like, yes, I'm Mr. Dr. Raj.
Not even a big deal. He's okay with it. He owns it, right? He owns it.
But at the end of the day,
I see you, bro. I see you.
He is still the head of our household.
Yeah.
He is still the man. I am still very, very submissive to him. And what I mean by that is that I look for him to lead us. Regardless if I'm on this TV station or doing that, he is the head, and I don't have a problem with that. But there are some people who struggle with that. But I know that I am not designed. Listen, I am not designed to be a provider. Listen, I'm not. If I got to take care of myself, if I was single, then I would. But he has such a strong personality of being a provider that it's not even in me to try to even emasculate him and saying, I got this. So just being able to understand each other's background, being able to understand what people need. Because for him, he needs to take care of his family. Right. Like that is his number one. That's his number one need. And even if I look like I might be trying to make moves to do that, he's like, no, I got this. Yeah. And I'm like, yep, you do. And that's hard because as women, we're like, we want to orchestrate stuff.
Yeah.
But being able to let him lead shows that I do trust his decisions. Yeah. And I think it's hard if you're with a person that you can't trust what they're going to do. And they're unpredictable. Yeah, I think that's where the problem comes in.
I would agree 1,000%. I think that trust, when you're in a relationship where you feel like you don't trust somebody, then it makes it very difficult for you to allow them to lead you.
Well, I think that comes from setting the expectation. Barry and I have had that conversation quite often, where a lot of times in relationships, we're disappointed not with each other, but in the failure to meet my expectation. But in some cases, if I haven't communicated to you what my expectation is, then am I really in the right to be angry or upset?
Yeah.
Right.
But if I've set that expectation and then, you fail to meet it or I fail to meet the expectation, then there's that cause for conversation.
See, when you say words like expectation, I think about single women. And on the way here, Roz and I joked because she was like, I was not built to be single. She was like, that is not my calling.
Not my ministry
But
at all.
but there are women who are single, who have been single for a really long time. And a lot of the women that I know have that kind of conversation, like the expectations. Like, well, I don't feel like there are men that meet my expectations. Or I feel like while there may be good men, maybe they're not good enough in terms of expectations. And I don't know, I guess, how do you give advice to a woman who's single, who in her mind, in her own right, is very successful, and she feels like, why should I lower my expectations? Should she lower her expectations? Do they need to be adjusted? Like, how does that?
It's a great question.
I was going to let her handle that because I was like, I could go down that road with you and what my thoughts are, but we're gonna let the experts speak.
It's good having an expert here.
That's a great question, Lauren. And to be honest with you, when I work with clients who are in that, I'm 45 and I'm not married, and I'm amazing. Why doesn't someone see that? So I sit with them and I say, you got to have a very honest conversation about yourself. Tell me all the things that you do great. Tell me all the things that you're not so great at. Tell me all the things that you say are your flaws. And then ask one other person that loves you, but that will not lie to you. And so when they come back and they have this list, and then I ask them, do you want people to accept you for all of that? Everything on this list. And they're like, yeah, I'm me. Accept me for who I am. So if you're asking someone to accept you for who you are, then you gotta be willing to accept somebody else. And here is the honest truth. Every brother that makes six figures is not gonna treat you right.
Oh, no.
You don't know what their mental issues may be. You don't know what their values, their family structures. Just because someone is financially successful does not mean that you're guaranteed to have a great life. And I think we have to get away. And the problem is, and this is where men get confused about women, because they think we're gold diggers because we want things, right?
Yeah.
But we're not. The number one need for women is security.
Thank you. I feel like shouting. I'm sorry, I got so excited just now. No, because I hear that all the time. Like, what does it matter what I do for you? That is a huge part of what makes me want to be with you. It has nothing to do about money and mansions and purses and bags. And it's not those things. It's the security. You got me.
Right. Yeah.
The
emotional security is the number one thing. Like, can I be vulnerable with you?
Yeah.
Can I tell you my deepest secret and you not use it against me?
Yeah.
Can you know the worst things about me and still see me as the person that you saw on the day that we met?
Yeah.
And when a woman can feel that she can be that intimate, because that's intimacy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
True vulnerability is real intimacy.
Yeah.
Real intimacy.
That's like walking down the street naked.
Yeah.
At least that's how it feels for me.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, it's like it's all out. It's here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, this
We
is
good?
this is all my issues.
Right.
I'm putting it all out, so you're not confused 6 months later, like, who the crazy chick,
Sent the representative away.
But, understanding that emotional security and security is so big in relationships that if you are a guy that's not providing that, she's never really going to be able to trust you in the way that you want her to trust you. But guys, their security is giving you their ATM code, or the pass to their checkbook.
Yeah.
When they trust you in that vein financially,
Oh, yeah.
then you have arrived, right? They see you very differently. honestly, that doesn't mean that much to women.
No.
In the grand scheme of things. Because as women, we probably already are taking care of financials. We're already balancing the checkbook. We're already like making sure, organizing the bills. We're already doing those things. So when we get that from it, it's so big for a guy.
You're right. That is big for,
It's
Hey,
for
look,
them.
I will
big for a
speak.
guy.
That is huge. I remember when I relinquished a lot of, and I called it control. Hey, look, this is the password. This is the username password. This is everything you need just to get in. Oh, here's the app.
Yeah.
Here, look, here's my phone. Here, you thumbprint.
Yeah.
I want you to know there's a code. You have full access.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, he can tell you that most of the time, I never use any of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, did you look at the account? Like, no.
No.
Did you look at the account? Something I need to know. See?
We just know that we have the access to it.
Yeah.
Like you're not denying
Yeah.
us from that.
Right.
But that financial, it just really doesn't mean that much unless the lights are off.
Yeah. Then
You
it's like,
know,
whoa, wait.
What's
Then it's
going
like,
on?
what's going on? Or, you know, you're getting notices for eviction or you know, then we're like, wait, what is going on here?
Right.
But, you know, if men could understand what that security looks like for women, and if women could understand what that security looks like for men, then you have a better opportunity of having a very fulfilled relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's where the challenge comes in because, like, I have single girlfriends that, you know, their expectations are just that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I always say, never settle for anything that's not going to make you happy, but reevaluate your expectations and make sure they're realistic. Is this what I'm just putting out there that I want because this is, you know, my fairy tale? This is what I'm trying to find my knight in shining armor? Or is this realistic? And you can't expect people to come to the table with more than you're able to bring to the table unless they say they're okay with that. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes the expectations kind of just go so far. Oh, he's got to be 6 feet tall, brown skin, curly hair, come from a good family, went to a good school.
That's part of that
have a
checklist,
6 feet.
right?
You're like, oh my God, like, that's great. I want that too. But at the same
5'9"
time,
and a half. Though, you know.
She tried it, Barry. She tried it.
5'9" and a half.
he made the height requirement. That's all that
Right,
matters.
right,
Like, you
right.
got to be taller than me.
Gotta be taller
Yeah.
than me.
Yep.
And my mother would always make the joke. She'd be like, that's nice. Your friend, your friend is you taller than him. I was like, no, Mom, I'm not taller than him.
She's rocking them heels that day.
I
huh?
probably had on heels and had on flats. But anyway, I just think sometimes that once again, that expectation is just, and then I think sometimes when people hear that, they translate that into, okay, so I should be more like open to just whoever. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is just make sure that your expectations are realistic.
Okay, but once you have that conversation with women, we are in a very interesting time when it comes to like dating and what influences whether or not someone ends up in a relationship, right? Where you have, and I don't know if it's so there's two arguments that could be made. Like, this is new stuff, friends with benefits, or it's magnified because of media and the authority that I think media has in a lot of the decisions that people make. But most people, like, I was reading something on Facebook, and there are a lot of women who I feel like are playing themselves. So, like, I'm okay with friends with benefits. You can't spend the night. Like, they just play this game like they don't want to be in a relationship because they feel like they have to convince themselves almost because whatever guys they're dealing with don't want to be in a relationship, or he just doesn't want to be in a relationship with her. And so, you know, and not to make it about just single people, but I want to make sure, we have a panel full of married people. I want to make sure we address this. But for someone who's like, okay, well, it's easy for you guys to say that because you're married. You've found your love. You found your happily ever after. But in this environment where you have men who have women just handing it out on a platter, how do you become distinctive? How do you make sure that you catch, or I don't want to say catch, but I guess catch that
You don't
person.
hand it out.
I was about to say that's the difference.
You don't.
You
Yeah, but
continue
then
to be-
then you risk the chance of what?
No, because who's for you will be for
Yeah.
you. Just like any other blessing, right? My blessing will come when my blessing is my time. And
Okay.
God knows I'm ready, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to continue to be you, because the person that's meant for you is looking for you as you are. He's not looking for you to be handing it out on a platter if that's not your thing. Right. You know what I mean? But on the flip side, I also say to people, and I think I don't know if you were on the show then when we were back at the radio station and we were talking about She's Gotta Have It. I'm like, you know, people think that because a woman wants to have friends with benefits, that means she's, you know, emotionally damaged or whatever. Why is there that double standard? Mm-hmm. You know, a woman could be in a space of exploration of herself as well, just like a man can. Mm-hmm. But, you know, going beyond that, it's just one of those things where it's like, I think so many times people are out there, and, you know, probably not the best person, but Steve Harvey said it best. You know, as women, we're not the hunter in this scenario, right? So if you think about lion and lioness, we're hunting, right? But in this scenario of relationships, we're not the hunters. We are the ones that we're waiting to be found or discovered by that person that God has sent for us, right? I know that's my take on it.
No, you're absolutely right. I think, you know, I self-disclose all the time. My husband was my first. Mm-hmm. I got married at 29. That was the day that I experienced what sex was like, right? Mm-hmm. So, but we dated for years before that, and people were just like, how? How did that happen?
I am truly impressed.
Yeah.
With him as well.
Listen, this
Especially
happened.
him.
I have 3 older sisters. This was the case for all of us.
Right.
Because my father didn't play. Mm-hmm. So 6 months into dating, my husband, then boyfriend, met my parents. And he was like, oh, I get it. Mm-hmm. My father was was the kind of guy that, these are my babies. Mm-hmm. I took care of them. Mm-hmm. And I'll take you out for hurting them. Mm-hmm. He was just that kind of guy. But not only that, when I met my husband, you know, on the first day, people are like, what? You told him this? And I was like, yes. I told him, listen, by the way, I don't do the sex thing until I'm married. By the way, I don't stay in long relationships. I won't be a 3-year, 4-year, 5-year girlfriend. And we were 23 when we met. 22, 23 when we met. I said, I don't do that. And I said, so if you have a problem with that, I don't mind being friends with you. Mm-hmm. But these are the standards for my life, because what's important for me is that when I meet my husband, that he knows what he's getting, and he appreciates what he's getting. So my husband was like, can I think about it? Sure.
I feel like he scratched the back of his head like, on that one. Let me see.
You absolutely can think about it.
That was a literal scratch in the head.
Yeah.
Like, I don't,
and listen,
okay.
I'll be honest with you. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. But at the end of the day, because sex didn't convolute us, mm-hmm. he was able to see my heart. Right. I was able to see his heart. Yeah. I was able to see how he manage things. He was able to see how I manage things. He was able to see me function in hardships. I was able to see him function in hardships. So I know I'm extreme. I don't tell people like don't have sex. You're grown. Listen, sex is an orgasm is bae. So listen, since I didn't know what that was, like it wasn't bae then. But listen, it's bae.
For the record, if there are children watching.
Oh, sorry.
I'm playing. There aren't.
No, not at this time.
There aren't. She said orgasm is bae.
I mean, listen, you need it. Sex is sustainability for a relationship.
Yes.
And if you really want to be religious about it, it's the only sin that God reverses in the Bible. You know, and so the marriage bed is undefiled. So in saying that, you have to be careful with who you allow in your presence. And what I mean by that, let me keep it PC. When a man inserts into a woman, that's the closest he could ever get to her. Mm-hmm. It doesn't get any closer than the man physically being inside of you. Yep. And when you think about it like that, everybody that you date, that you meet, they don't deserve that space.
Oh,
Indeed.
They don't deserve that space.
We talked about that earlier.
And I do think some women do play themselves when they're like, I like this friends with benefit thing. at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself this question. When that man inserts you, you want him to desire you in that moment. We all want to be desired. There is not a woman alive that is in a consensual sex situation that does not want to be desired by the person. So if there is that level of desirability for this person to want you, then you have to pay attention to that. Because if you're just giving them your sex, but you want them to want you, you're not getting what you need. Because your sex is different from you. It's just a part of you.
Yeah.
It's not the totality of you. And so if you're just okay with giving someone a portion of you, then you got to reevaluate. Same thing with men. I tell men, your stuff is precious. Women, a lot of women, especially, I'm in my 40s. Okay, I'm 41. Once you get to this age and you see a brother who's still not married and you still see him hanging out, you're like, he's been through a lot of women. You become undesirable too.
Yeah. That is so true.
That's the hidden secret that men don't understand.
A man can be considered a hoe.
Yeah. And
Let me
listen,
just go on and say it.
No, but
was.
the way she said it, he's been through a lot of women. You become undesirable
You become
too.
undesirable.
And the way
Exactly,
she
yeah.
said it,
Because it's like,
that's an interesting way of
I'm
putting
not
that's
going
an
behind.
ill
I
moment.
know he was with her, so I ain't going behind her.
Yeah.
Right.
I know he's with that chick. I ain't going behind that.
Yeah.
And so men, you are missing out on, a woman that could be great for you too.
Yeah.
If you're not respecting your body. And there is nothing wrong with with respecting your body and saying that I'm just not with it. And for women to look at a man as like, oh, he's gay, or, to write him off. No, I want to challenge you women. Don't do that to men who want to respect their bodies, because there's nothing wrong with that. Our body is so precious. Our body is so valuable. And what we put into us, it stays with us.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Soul ties are real. I don't think people believe it, but it's real. And so you got to be careful about what you ingest. Just got to be careful about it.
So, Dr. Roz, I have this question for you.
Okay.
This is from the male perspective, okay? Because
Okay.
I heard you say your father,
Yes.
where your husband met your father and was like, oh, now I understand.
Yeah.
So a lot of our behavior from a man's perspective is learned behavior.
Yes.
This is what we're learning. And a lot of things you're talking about, this is like we're taught to be studs, to be manly, to have as many women as possible. The education has to change.
It does.
And how does that happen from a male and female perspective when it's not necessarily in the house like it was for you?
You know what? This Me Too movement is doing a lot of that, because a lot of guys now are checking themselves like, I can't do this, I can't do that like I used to.
Right.
Like the locker room talking about a girl. Now you're looked at as a perv. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of things are changing, and I'm grateful for it. Because at the end of the day, I think the messages that we do give to boys is a hindrance when it comes to relationships. Again, self-disclosure. As you can tell, I love to talk. My husband does not. So our first year of marriage, we had a commuter marriage. I lived in Pennsylvania. He was here. I don't suggest that for anybody. It was the worst. The worst.
It's a little stressful.
Sounds bad.
This is relationship.
Oh my gosh, a little stressful. But we didn't know how to communicate. Like, I literally, this is horrible. I literally would straddle him down in the bed and say, no, you're going to talk to me. And he still wouldn't talk. I had to be like, nobody's going to bed in this house. If I'm up, we're all going to be up and we're going to talk this issue out. But that wasn't his way to communicate.
Right.
And so, I'm the youngest of 4 girls. He's the youngest of 3 boys. They duke it out.
Yes.
There's no talking in the house. I didn't get that. I didn't understand that. Until finally, we went to therapy. Because I believe in therapy. I don't care how great your relationship is. Maintenance is great because, again, you renegotiate the terms of marriage. And our therapist had us write journals back and forth. So my husband likes to write.
Wow.
So he would write me a message every single day. We did this for a year. He would write me a message every single day of things that I could not even dream that he was thinking about. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, really? That's what you thought? I mean, I thought I was such an amazing wife, and he was like, who told you that? You know? But I needed to hear it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I needed to hear those things. So I think this Me Too movement is now showing guys you can't do what you used to do and it be okay. But I also challenge mothers because we're raising these, and I don't want to get on single mothers because God bless you. That's a hard job. But you can't make little Tyrone at 8 years old a man of the house.
No.
He just can't understand what that is.
No, his
Or
mind
even
isn't
what that
ready
means.
for
Oh, what that
yeah.
means. And so you put that type of pressure on him. Or when kids fall, when a little boy falls on the playground and we're like, get up, be a man. It
Man
didn't
up.
hurt, shake it off, man up. You're talking to a 1-year-old, telling him to man up. Mm-hmm. I know 25, 30, 40-year-olds who don't know how to man up. So when you put that kind of pressure on a 1-year-old, you are stunting their ability to express themselves, to have an emotional expression, to say, hey, I'm hurting. And so because men hear this message, as they grow, they don't know how to say, I am hurting.
Yeah.
They don't know how to say, this feels good. We stunt emotional growth, and I think we do a disservice to our boys, to our men, when we put them in those type of situations that, you know, we're making them not express who they are. And I tell people all the time, you can have any emotion that you want to have in life because that's human nature. You know, we're all human beings. We are emotional beings. It's what you do when you're feeling angry. It's what you do when you're feeling embarrassed. It's what you do when you're feeling sad or mad that makes the difference. But if you don't even recognize that you're embarrassed, that you're mad, that you're sad, you don't know what to do. You're just doing anything.
But I think part of that comes from there are people in the world that just they themselves aren't equipped to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not equipped to show compassion, to be able to teach compassion because no one has shown or taught them. Yeah. So you got to fix that problem first before we can get over here to address how you're, teaching your son to grow up and how to be expressive of his feelings. Because if you grew up in an environment where you did not express feelings, I can't teach you how to do something that I don't know how to do. Yeah. And that's where the challenge starts right there, because now there's this thing that's starting, and it's a cycle until someone says, okay,
therapy.
I need help.
Yeah.
Right? I need help. I need to learn how to be expressive of my feelings, to say I'm hurt or I'm angry. But then on the flip side, being a mother to a young black male myself, I also remember that growing up raising him, it wasn't that I didn't want him to be emotional. I felt like at the time, as a single mom, I had to equip him with just enough compassion, but just enough that he could still get through it without being broken. Yeah. So it wasn't, oh, don't cry. Mine was more so, usually I told you not to do that, so these are the consequences of your action. So yes, I love you, but okay, go get yourself together.
I was gonna say, like that's how I am with my son too. It's less of like you don't have the right to be upset, and it's more of like, well, when you do A, B, and C, then D happens. Yeah. And so while I understand that you're upset, like now it's time to kind of move on. And I'm not trying to dismiss his feelings, and I'm not trying to dismiss his hurt and his pain. Yeah. But I've been working all day and I'm tired. Right. So I just need you to really shut up, honestly. You're making a lot of noise. But B, I also, to your point, I'm trying to think about how to give him capacity to operate outside of the house. Right. And outside of the house, you you have to be able to manage all of that. Like, okay, oh, ow, I'm hurt. Ooh, that hurt. I cried for 10 seconds. Okay, now I got to dust myself off because I got to keep moving because there's other things that have to happen around me. Like, you just can't dwell, you know?
You're talking about coping mechanisms.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
making sure they can cope properly.
Yeah, like, exactly. I don't want to be too this way where it's like, okay, you can cry for a whole hour. Like, no, you can't cry for a whole hour. I don't want to be too much this way where I'm like, you got to toughen up. You got to be a man because that's not acceptable. It's like trying to have this balance. And, you know, me and his father kind of butt heads a little bit because he feels like I let my kids get away with murder, and I might let them get away with murder sometime. It's not on purpose, but it's also because I think that I have the capacity to like be reasonable in the moment to say this X, Y, and Z happened. It hurt. They're upset. Let them be upset for a few minutes and then talk to them. Okay, it's time to like wipe your face. Let's move on. Let's go on about our day.
But I mean, then when you think about it even from the next perspective as African Americans or black people, whatever you identify and call yourself, we haven't had that space to be able to, to wallow in our moment.
Yeah. Our kids can't spaz out in Walmart and, you know, it be like a funny meme. It's not funny when our kids do it, you know, and not to play the race card, but when our kids do it, it's a problem. When other kids do it, it's a commercial, you know, like
they're just exploring life and going through emotions and growing.
But I think in hearing both of you manage your sons, I think you do. I think you're doing it the correct way in terms of saying, hey, these are consequences. Because there are so many times that we just go through lives and we don't even realize what the consequences are. But things are happening to us and we don't realize that those are the consequences of a choice that we made.
Right.
And so if you are connecting that for your child at a young age, your child begins to understand bad choices lead to bad consequences.
I just want to say it's very difficult to raise little human beings. Not just
their bags of emotions.
Well, I mean, we're not necessarily talking about parenting, but as it relates to like love, relationships, and we think about how you need to be prepared yourself before you enter into a relationship, because a lot of people aren't ready to be in a relationship. They think they are, but they have a whole bunch of stuff going on the inside that they have to deal with first before they bring that baggage into a new situation.
Right.
And oftentimes it kind of is connected to your childhood.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And oftentimes when I'm raising my kids, I'm thinking about that, particularly with my son.
Yeah.
You know, when I think about my experiences with my dad, I think about my experiences with men, and I think about when I'm talking to Landon, I have a son and a daughter, and I'm blessed to have both. I truly feel that way. I'm blessed to have both because there are so many small examples that I can see will play a major role in how he engages with women in his future. Yeah. And you know, I watch how he will kid around, and my son is no small kid, okay? He's 10, he looks 13.
Wow.
Me and him like the same height.
Wow.
Like his shoes are bigger than mine, okay?
Keep your Timbs on, okay? Keep your Timbs on.
Hello?
Right.
You have to remind them every now and
Plant
then.
my feet like this, more like Mortal Kombat. But when he's like, you know, kind of kidding around with his sister, and I have to tell him, and he's like, Mom, she hit me. I can't hit her back. I'm like, first of all, nobody should be hitting anyone at all. At all. That's number one. Keep your hands to yourself because there's consequences to that. And I tell Logan that all the time. But then I have side conversations with Landon. I'm like, Landon, she's 6. She about the weight of a needle. You know?
Yeah.
There's no comparison to what could happen if you put your hands on her. So I want you to say to yourself as you're going through life, when these girls are, you know, offending you, you need to take a step back, Landon. You can't turn around and haul off and punch a girl in the face in school because she pushed you. Yeah. You just can't because he wants to. And those girls test him. Oh, they test him all the time. And I tell Landon all the time, I know it's not fair. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's not fair. Yeah. But you got to find an adult immediately and walk away as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to be in the wrong.
Those are those conversations you had to have. I mean, like, I remember teaching my son, like, as he started dating, I was like, you know, before then teaching him, if you hit the altercation with a woman, you gotta, if she's like swinging and hitting on you, I tell them, put your hands up so it's visible.
So it's visible.
Yeah.
I don't want no problems.
Yeah.
I said, and walk away from her.
Yeah.
And if she still continues, go find a cop.
Go find
Yep.
somebody.
I
Yes.
said,
Find
but
someone.
I said either your hands in your pocket or your hands up, so no one can mistake any action that you make
Yes.
as, oh, I saw him hit her. Or I
Yes.
saw him do.
Yes.
No, make it very clear. I said, but
Yes.
you don't hang around
No.
for her to abuse you
No.
because it happens both ways.
Yes.
And that's the crazy thing with the Me Too movement and everything else is that it's not just men that need reality checks. They're women.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
I mean,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me interject here because I'm speaking from the male perspective now. So I have a lot of guys that are afraid of the Me Too moment,
Oh, yeah.
and they're afraid because I can't say Jack anymore. Well, what were you saying before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was always my thing to them. It's like, so if you said something inappropriate that you thought might have been inappropriate, but you didn't think she was going to say anything, now all of a sudden you're scared, then obviously you shouldn't have said it in the first place.
Yeah.
So from my perspective or our perspective of a father that has two daughters, they're going to have my man card. So they're going to know everything any guy could possibly say. So they're going to have conversations. I'm not always going to look forward to it, but I want them to be a nice open conversations because I do want to kind of pass down. I want what your father gave to you guys to be something they can carry on and say, you know what, my dad doesn't play.
Yeah.
And, certain
Oh,
things
my
he's
dad
going
was crazy. He would walk up to random guys, and I'm from small town America in Rome, Georgia, very small, so we knew everybody. He would walk up, and when y'all slept with my daughters, they'd be like, no, so he kept us in check because for him, he just kind of understood what a woman. He both my parents are the only child, but his father died when he was on his 16th birthday. So he kind of understood what women needed. And then they tried for boys, but they just ended up with 4 girls, and my mother was like, stop.
That's
I'm
enough.
not doing no more.
Right.
That's it.
But he understood what we would need. And I'm glad that you're saying that you want to pour that into your daughters, because the truth of the matter is you are her everything. You are her first example of how a man is going to treat her. And I think when I hear about these situations, we were talking about it on the way up, and these men who just create havoc
Yes.
in the baby mama's life or the life, and it's like you just don't understand that you're showing her what manhood looks like.
What it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
But
you just.
that's not the case.
Yeah, and so again, when your parents are your first teachers, she's learning that, oh, well, this is acceptable. Dad talks to mom any kind of way.
I mean, but in their defense, there's so many people being raised without fathers.
Yeah.
I
So
was
they
gonna say
have
that
no
too.
examples, and
Yeah.
they don't know. And so what their sons are seeing is mommy going through whatever,
Yeah.
however she's dealing with
Or
it,
whoever.
or and what's coming from that is what you see, because you have young ladies that make their baby daddy or their children's father's life living hell.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a desire of more from that person that they don't know how to communicate.
Yeah.
So we had a child together and this isn't working out, but I still want you, or I still think I should be the most important person in your world because I had your baby. She didn't have your baby. And then it just becomes like, oh my God, like what's really going on right now?
PSA. Just because you're the mother of their children, come close.
Right.
Just because you are the mother of their children does not mean that they hold you in that regard.
No.
Well, okay, so the question then is, should they though?
So life choices.
Okay, because
Life
you
choices.
made a statement. Just because you are doesn't mean that they will. But should they?
Depends.
Life
So
choices.
did we
You-
have this baby because we talked about wanting to have kids?
Yeah,
and
let's say
planned
we.
it?
So
That's
let's
what
say
I'm
we
saying.
did.
Or
Yes.
is this a oops baby?
No.
And
So let's say it's not
I didn't
a-
really want this, but
Okay,
this was
so
going
let's,
down.
let's say it's not a oops baby. It's not an oops baby.
Not a oops baby.
It's a planned baby, but the romance just didn't work out. Should that still? Okay, so you know what? Will
Somebody's
and
having
Will
a thought
Smith,
right now, you know?
Will Smith and Sheree and Jada piss me off. Okay, because he treats that woman, his ex-wife, his first son's mother, with so much respect.
Well, part of that is because not only was she the mother of his first child, she was his first wife.
Right. So
there's two
but
things
that's my
there.
question. My question is, should they? Let's say under those circumstances, should they? Should the guy have that kind of reverence for that woman, even if they're not together anymore?
Well, I'll say this. I hear a lot of people say, how does that work? But I think, because I feel like, well, first of all, Will didn't want the divorce.
Right.
Sheree wanted it. He didn't want the
Right.
divorce. But I think they do a fantastic job
Of co-parenting.
of co-parenting and blending their families.
Yeah, they go on vacation
Yeah.
together.
Yes,
And,
together.
you know,
With
without the
holidays,
spouse.
everything.
And
Without
if-
the spouse.
I don't know if that's cute, but
I don't
I mean, but that's
know.
okay because
But that's
that's
okay.
a trust level.
Yeah.
Right? And that
Yes.
has to be a trust level that's
Yes.
built up
Yes.
by
Yes.
both parties.
Yes.
Like, I'm
They're
not worried about it.
They're very included in
Yes.
each other's family.
Yes.
But again, that's expectation. Jada didn't want to be married.
that's
Jada
true.
didn't. Jada has said that she did
She
not
says
want.
she's not the typical wife.
Yeah, she didn't
She
want to
said
be
that.
married, but then she's now she's pregnant with this child.
Yeah.
Will's the type of man who's not going to be married to. He wanted to be married.
Right.
Yes.
He didn't just want
He's
a baby
Yeah,
mama.
he
a
didn't just
relationship
want a
man.
baby mama.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
So I think that they work together fantastically to figure out, and it doesn't feel good to us because it's kind of
Right.
like you going on vacation with your baby, your ex-wife. I don't understand that, and we're not going. I don't understand that. But if you're coming from the perspective that she doesn't want him anymore. Like she made it very clear she
Yeah.
wanted out,
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So he was not pining
Yes.
over her anymore.
Right.
But because of how he was brought up, he never wanted his children to be without. He never wanted his children to feel like these kids get more than my first son.
So you're
they-
saying that there isn't a right or wrong. So it sounds like what you're trying to say. So my question is, should he revere the mother of his under those circumstances? If
I think it depends on who you choose to procreate with.
Okay.
Which is why I tell people all the time, everybody is not worth you.
Big butt and a smile wasn't all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah,
was it?
everybody's not. They're not worth you. And so, if you're in this friends with benefits thing, right?
right.
And then, oops, condom
Right.
broke.
The
Now you're
break, the
pregnant.
break babies.
Oh, the break babies.
Break babies?
The break babies.
Modernized with that.
You know, and then it's kind of like, but this ain't. But I didn't want you.
But yeah.
See, here's the thing. Just because somebody will accept what you give them does not mean that they still want you.
Yeah.
Right.
People will take everything
That you give
that
them.
you'll give.
Yeah, that you offer.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean that they want you.
Right.
And so this is where self-protection comes in. You got to look at the situation for what it is.
For what it is,
If
right.
you've been friends with benefits for 6 years,
How that happen?
that and,
So
and,
wait,
and
that's
you're
not a
out
re-
here talking about
Is
you
that
want a
really
good
a relationship? That sounds like a relationship.
listen.
A lot of
Well, it
people
depends.
do
Do
it.
it.
A lot of
depends.
people do
People
it.
do it.
Well, I mean,
A lot of people do it.
But on the flip side, you can't say I'm single looking for a good man, because what you're doing is that you're letting somebody occupy the space
Yes.
of what a good man can do for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Blocking your
Yes.
blessings and some
Yeah,
people.
Yeah.
because no man is coming into a situation where he knows that she's sleeping with somebody else.
When
She got
I'm
a
not
situation
around,
with
Tyrone
somebody
comes
else.
over.
Exactly. No man.
what?
No man is
Better
doing
call time.
that. Yeah, no, no.
oh, you
no
going
man
out
is
of
doing
town?
that.
Okay, well, me and Jay
And
gonna
if
be out
there
this
is a
week.
man that's okay with that, then he's a very modernized thinking type
The
of
modern,
individual.
modernized.
And I mean, I look at the Will and Jada thing, and having a blended family myself, it's a respect thing.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to, and I think that comes from not just the marriage and not just the child, but there's a history there of we know what we've done to each other, we know what we've gone through, we know what it is. So there's that level of mutual respect. You're where you are in life, and I am where I am in life, and we can respect that and respect one another. And we've decided mutually that we want to do what we feel is best for our child or our children, and this is how we're going to do it. And that other person being Jada, as she said, she had to kind of get on board with that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much like he held her in high held Sheree in high revere, it was just that Jada was being a little catty about some stuff.
She was.
Like, how you gonna move into her house and then gonna try to tell her, well, it's my house now? Well, wait a minute, but I picked out them curtains, those drapes. You know what I mean? Like, don't try to
don't
like
come.
diminish me. Like,
Right,
you know,
right.
that's when people that's the type of behavior that brings out the ugly in people.
Yes,
But let
yes.
me tell you where we wrote our name at. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like that kind of
right.
stuff. You're like, whoa, wait.
Right. Yeah, I remember Jada saying Will checked her about how she was trying to come for Sheree.
And he should have.
And being like,
Right.
pause, you know, like, that is my first wife. That's
And
Sheree's mother.
None of that
They're
was
gonna always
beneficial
be
for
around.
Trey.
Necessary, yes.
None of that was
Not
beneficial
exactly.
for their son.
Yeah.
So when I see my clients, I often ask them, how is this behavior benefiting you? How is this impacting your life? How
Yeah.
is this changing your life? And if it's not for the better, why are you stuck in this behavior?
Doesn't make sense. Why are we doing it?
So, and if your leaders, I mean, your listeners don't remember anything else, I really want you guys to take this into effect. In the psychological world, we call it the CAB effect. And really what that is that C stands for cognitions, our thoughts, how we process, how we take in information. A stands for affect. For the clinical world, that means your emotional state, your mood state, your feelings. And then B simply stands for behavior. So when I say the CAB effect, with my clients, they instantly know that I'm talking about their thoughts, feelings, and behavior. So positive thoughts leads to positive feelings, which leads to positive behavior. Negative thoughts will influence negative feelings, and negative thoughts and negative feelings will influence negative behavior. So have you ever been in a situation where you're like, I have no idea why I just did that? We all do it. It's
We're
a
like,
reality.
You go crazy for 10 seconds. You wake up, you're like, ooh.
Like, what was I thinking?
I was
Why did I
crazy.
do that?
I was
Yeah.
tripping there for a minute.
And it's because we're being driven by our thoughts. And if you don't check those, and this, so the most important, so let me say this. The most important relationship you'll ever have is a relationship you have with yourself.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But if you don't honor the relationship which you have with yourself, then you'll be in any kind of relationship with anybody else. So if you are not checking your thoughts about you and monitoring how it makes you feel
Yeah.
and checking your behaviors, then you are not ready for a relationship.
Right.
Because if you are unchecked, connecting with another unchecked person, you're wreaking havoc on each other.
Okay, I'm gonna use that as a sound bite, just so you know. That little piece right there. We're
If
gonna
you
loop that
are
around.
unchecked.
You are unchecked.
Connecting with another unchecked person, you are wreaking
You're wreaking
havoc on each other.
And when you think of,
Like
because
that.
listen, when you intertwine your life with someone, they're taking all of your stuff and you're taking all of their stuff. So I often ask my clients, like, what life do you want to have? You want to have your single life? You want to have your single life? Or do you want to have your together life? And is your together life, your married life, more important than the two single lives that you're still trying to live? Because at the end of the day, if you're going to waste, don't waste people's time. Don't hold them hostage.
Right.
Don't hold them emotionally hostage. If you're not ready for a relationship, don't put your issues on someone else. It's unfair. It's unfair to you. It's unfair to your relationship. It's unfair to the other person. But you don't know that because we get so caught up, ooh, Shawty look good.
The visual first,
You
right?
get caught up in the visual. But and here's where we have to check ourselves. You got to be emotionally mature.
Yeah.
You got to have a sense of who you are. And because when you don't know your foundation, you get caught up in all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So we talk about black love all the time. My thing is this is my therapy. This is my motto that I use, that, saving families one marriage at a time, because we thrive in marriage. And when I hear people say that marriages are not good and I don't want to intertwine my life with that, I was like, you don't even understand the fundamentals of what marriage is. Marriage is about growing together, raising together, being in partnership. None of us can really be in this life alone without somebody.
I was going to ask you that question next. I was going to ask, what about those people who are like, oh, I'm meant to be single, or I'm not meant to,
I I get that all the time, and I have a really good girlfriend who's like, yeah, I don't need to be with anybody. But then when I have deeper conversations, it's the thought that you don't think you're worthy enough to be with somebody. And so if you don't have that real moment with yourself to where you understand what your worth is and how valuable you are and how great you are and how good you are, you won't think that somebody will want you. So when we were talking about public speaking earlier, when I see people, like I hear people say that they're shy all the time. Really what that is insecurity. It's not really shyness. It's really people just afraid of the rejection. So they pull back and they put on the mask of, I don't need a man. You let a spider show up.
I just have to say one thing. I just have to say one thing. So I remember we've been together so long. I remember the majority of her stories. And I remember one time when she was just pouring all this love into her son. And she told her mother and her sister that, I don't need no man. I got my son. That's all. Would you mind? Like that. We actually got to end that because we're almost at our time. So this is going to be the final thing.
It was basically, looking back on it now, it was that I had been through things and had seen things that had hurt me and wounded me to the point where the safest place for me to pour my love was to my son. And I would always tell my mother, because, they saw this long, dry spell of not dating or anything like that. And they'd be like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't need a man as long as I have my son. And my mother, was very, very old school, being, much older. She looked at me and she said, baby, there's a love and attention that your son cannot provide for you.
Ever.
Hello. She's like, so you hold on to that for now, but you're going to realize different. And it'll come for you when it's your time. And eventually it did, because it was like, okay, wait, like, you cute, you fun, I love you, but
something's missing. Something is missing.
More to this.
I want to be held. I want to be spooned.
I told you, orgasm is pain.
Oh my God, I'm tired of holding your hands.
But we had this conversation earlier because we were talking about how people communicate. And he can tell you that when I'm upset, and any of my really good friends and family members know, when I'm upset, if I get quiet, that just means that I don't have anything positive to say.
Code red.
So that's not necessarily a good thing. It just means, like, right now, if like I know you, just let me be quiet and let me have my space. But we were talking about in how a lot of times in relationships, people get angry about how something's impacting them. And they don't take the moment to think before they communicate their frustration of how whatever it is that you're doing, if you're an entrepreneur and it's impacting our lives, or if you want to go, do whatever and it's impacting us, they just speak from frustration and anger of this is how it's impacting me. I said, but if you take the time, this is where I see the benefit in my being quiet, because it allows me to process. I don't speak out of anger. It allows me to gather the thoughts so that I can come back and express and communicate what I'm feeling so that I'm not hurting you. Because if I speak in that moment, I'm angry. I'm trying to hurt you because I need you to feel my anger and how angry I am and how hurt I feel. So let me be quiet. Think about this where I can, communicate it to you that you'll actually listen. Because that's the other thing with men. Men don't listen when we're screaming at them. They might as well just had a hearing aid that they just turned off and took out. So
check your battery.
The whole straddling my husband still didn't work at 2, 3 in the morning. It just doesn't work. You can't. I always tell clients, don't ever say, hey, we need to talk, because he's already shut down.
Yeah.
Just start talking.
Yeah.
So obviously the three of you believe that marriage is goals, right? Marriage is the GOAT.
For my life, marriage was the goal for me.
Marriage is the GOAT.
There are some people who do not feel that they need marriage. But I will say this, we cannot sustain alone. So if you feel you don't need marriage, you do need to have a support system, because being in this world alone is not sustainable.
While I don't think that everyone right in their current present state of mind is marriage material, marriage ready, I think that people need to go into marriage realizing just that it is a partnership. It would be great if it was that Cinderella fairy tale every morning when I woke up, but it's not. There are days where it's very challenging. There's days where, like we've already said earlier, when I'm looking at him like, and it's not so much as something he's done, it's something we haven't communicated, or it's something I feeling a certain kind of way. But I also know that when I look at some of my friends that are like single and some of his friends that are single, we recognize the emptiness in the sense that there's nobody to come home and talk to at the end of the day. When I'm on the road traveling, he can tell you, that's when I experience it, because I'm like, dang, I've been on the road for 4 weeks straight. I haven't had a hug in 4 weeks. I start to feel sad.
Yeah.
Where, talking to them and seeing them, instead of making me happy, I'm getting teary-eyed because I'm like, I miss you guys so much. You know what I mean? Or I had a rough day and I can't reach him because they're at activities or doing something. This is the life of what someone who doesn't have that person to come home and communicate. I'm like, wow, this is what it feels like. No wonder my friends keep their schedules so packed. Because I have single friends that are doing so much.
To keep themselves distracted.
I'm doing that. I'm like, where do you find the time? Where you sleep?
Listen, guys, I gotta cut in here. I gotta cut us off. I mean, this is great conversation. For those of you that are listening in through Facebook Live, and you're gonna be listening in on YouTube, it's gonna be edited slightly, just a little bit, not too much, just in the beginning and the end, because there's some really good content in here. Also, if you're gonna be listening to us on Podbeam through our podcast, it's probably going to be a part 1 and part 2 to this, just because I think an hour is a little bit long. Unless you have if you're in the DMV, you got plenty of time to listen to a podcast and traffic.
Why you
That's
going
how I
from
normally
here to
do
there,
it.
right?
But we want to thank you again for tuning in. We want to thank Dr. Ross for coming out and blessing us.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
We enjoyed you so much. I want to, and thanks, Kev, for not showing up, having me as the only male here. I'm talking about you, bro. I'm talking about you. And we want to thank all our fans and everyone who's listening in. And I have to say this real quick. Shirley Benny says she's really, really proud of you.
Oh, my God. That's my mother, y'all. She tried it.
And thank you, Classic Renee, for tuning in, and Rachel, and Abe. I see you, bro. Thanks for tuning in, bro. And we will talk to you soon. We will be here again in about 2 weeks.
Yes.
And
we have to say thank you to our wonderful host, Keontae, at the Hotel RL. Thank you so much for making tonight so awesome. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I like that. That was slick.
We're doing big things. We're getting bigger and better, right?
We're out, guys. Thank you very much. Tune in next time.
Bye-bye.